turn to ban. OG's turn to pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to DAC 2017. We're here in Group A, and we're going to be taking a look at one of the best matches come out of this group stages, I'm sure. I'm Lyrical, going to be joined as well by the wonderful Capitalist. Sir, how you doing?
I am doing pretty good. I think this is one of the perfect ways to open up this tournament, watching OG versus Wings. We have a 3-time major winner versus a TI champion. So I feel like this is probably one of the best matchups that you'll be able to get out of this whole entire tournament. And I think it really will also tell us a little bit about the ideas that these teams have for going into the meta, because this is a kind of a fresh meta that we're talking about with some tweaks happening to 7.0 over the last few weeks. So I think there are going to be some newer ideas developing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these teams have planned. I think it's going to be a lot less 5-nanny and snowbally than what we used to see out of the earlier parts of the 7.0 meta. I think IceFrog has specifically done some things to try and make split pushing a lot more viable.
All right, well, we're just getting into the draft right now, and we are seeing that there's the Centaur Warrunner first pick overall by OG, followed up by the Abaddon. These are two heroes that I think everybody was expecting to see a lot of. Monkey King first ban also. Is there anything really here that, like, what's been sort of the rise of prominence with the Centaur and the Abaddon coming out of this? And now a Shadow Shaman for Wings in the first phase. Talk to me, man. What's happening?
Okay, so I have a couple ideas about this. First of all, the Abaddon has come over. NA was right. NA was right about something for once. We actually had some good ideas about the meta for 7.0, and we developed the Abaddon very early on. And China actually picked this one up probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think they watched some Western Dota. I know, for example, ROTK, he plays offlane. He watches a lot of Western Dota. He picked up the Abaddon as one of the earlier Chinese adopters of this hero and started showing what this hero can do in this current patch. So it's not terribly surprising to me whatsoever that Wings picks this up in the first phase against the Centaur, the other big offlaner of the patch right now. But they pick up the Shadow Shaman, which has received some decent buffs in the last couple of tweaks to 7.0, one of which was a very large damage upgrade. Because the problem with Shadow Shaman as a support is that you had low movement speed, low range, and low damage, right? And that just means that you don't do anything when it comes to actually zoning a hero out. Now Shadow Shaman has some real damage, even if he is kind of slow and doesn't have the same kind of range as other supports have. He still hits pretty hard. And on top of that, there has been buff after buff after buff to Shackles. And Shackles now is not only just a long duration disable, but it is also a significant damage dealing source as well. So in the laning phase, it actually means that Shadow Shaman is probably one of the most feared 2v1 supports out there. You're only having just your offlaner in lane, and you're having to deal with the Shadow Shaman. I think, in my personal opinion, he's probably one of the supports that I fear the most out of anybody else. Because look at that, 2.75 seconds and 120 damage. It's a lot, right?
So
offlaners are scared of Shadow Shaman right now. So I think they want to put pressure on this Centaur Warrunner, and OG is going to respond, I think, in a very clear and concise fashion here. They're going to say, okay, you want to threaten the Centaur Warrunner, you want to do something like that, we'll make an Earth Spirit pickup, a nice 4-position support that roams around, can assist the Centaur in lane, and will also be a very active force where the Shadow Shaman is much more static when it comes to his laning phase, right? He likes to sit and just zone out the offlaner and get his levels. Earth Spirit, he's going to make things happen. He's going to roam into the offlane. He's going to roam into the mid. You're going to see things happen. They want to try and force reactions out of Wings where they have very static heroes so far.
Well, I'm very curious to see how this works out, and likewise what the Wings answer is going to be to this as well. Like, if they wanted to, then it'd probably be a little bit hard to just have, like, do you think that Shadow Shaman could completely shut down that safe lane, or keep that safe lane under wraps to the point where you can maybe go for another roaming hero of their own? I know that the Wings Gaming have decided to go more often than not recently for the Tusk, actually. He's been played a decent amount, and I'm wondering if maybe that would be an answer for them, or if they decide to go back for, just a really strong laning hero in their own right out of the safe lane. Maybe the Juggernaut that's, well, he's been banned out, so probably not going to be seeing him. But
yeah, I'm thinking the Tusk is probably the most interesting enigma of going over to the Chinese meta. In fact, it's one of the things I really love about coming into these Chinese LAN tournaments is you get a little bit of time to play some Dota here, watch some of the local pub games, and I was kind of doing that before we actually came, and Tusk was being picked up so much, and I was like, man, what makes the Chinese actually love this 4 position so much when we thought it was so underwhelming for so long? But it does seem like some of his talent buffs have made him a bit more viable, and I do think you are right in that Wings do need a 4 position rover that can sort of counteract what the Earth Spirit is going to be attempting, particularly in that mid lane, which we still don't know exactly what the matchup is. So I think it's a decent support pickup right now. It does offer you a little bit of initiation as well, which is one of the things that I usually fear when I pick up an early Abaddon. Because the Abaddon as an offlaner does not offer you a hard initiation like other offlaners do. Centaur Warrunner, for example, he gives you both sustain and initiation. That's what's so beautiful about him, thanks to the Aghanim Scepter and the Blink Dagger, is that it gives you both the best of both worlds, right? Abaddon only gives you the sustain and kind of this general constant presence, whether it's in team fights or in lanes. So I do like the idea of a 4 position that would also give you some initiation, and Tusk does kind of fit that bill.
I mean, maybe even, like, we haven't seen a lot of Shadow Shaman. Maybe they try and give him more of the farm and he can get into that Blink Dagger at a decent timing. Yeah. That could be another route to go about it. But they're going to be going back for a hero that I feel like has dropped out of the meta a lot. Luna, there were a lot of things that I feel like she got nerf after nerf after nerf. The changes to illusions, the way that those interacted. But still quite a strong hero and gives them a little bit more of that team fight presence that, perhaps they could end up getting a little bit of bonus off of as well. Press down objectives really early. To me, that's a clear signal. And now I'm wondering also, is Shadow Shaman enough with like getting level 6 up that gives you Roche taking potential, or do they need to build into some minus armor outside of that?
No, Shadow Shaman, his wards are good enough to be able to take Roche on. I think they've received enough minor buffs that a couple times I've seen a couple of Shadow Shaman games, and they do take Roche on pretty early. It's just basically once you get that early pickoff, you start taking some of these towers, you get the map control necessary, you translate that into an early Aegis. So like we're definitely seeing Wings going into a push strategy, and not surprised too much by the Luna pick, but I actually thought it was going to be a Terrorblade. Yeah. That was going to be their choice. It's very clear. You pick up a Shadow Shaman like this, you're going to go and try and put some pressure on the objectives nice and early. I just thought Terrorblade was more of a meta pick, but I think looking at Centaur, Warrunner, and Earth Spirit, those are 2 heroes that I would feel as a Terrorblade player a little bit threatened by the AoE and the heavy nuking damage and the control offered there. I think you would very quickly clear through some of those illusions and try and burst down the actual Terrorblade. So Luna is still susceptible to a lot of magic damage, but she is an earlier BKB buyer. So I think that that does fit against OG's lineup a little bit better, while OG still keeping their hands kind of open here with this Rubik pickup. We do have a lot of magic damage, which makes the null field a lot more value in this matchup. So I think both teams are having the right idea. Wings is obviously the one kind of directing the draft right now, saying, hey, we've got a ton of team fight, a ton of sustain, and a lot of pushing power. How OG is exactly going to be able to break this, I'm not sure, but it is going to require some fast heroes, I believe. It's going to require some heroes that are able to come online early and take team fights. You in particular cannot give up your mid-tier 1 too early. I think that is one of the death knells of many teams in this patch, is if you give up your first mid-tier 1 towers too early, you lose too much map control to come back.
All right, we'll have to see if they're capable of doing that. I mean, you've got Rubik, who's great at D-push very early on, and they're actually going to take the Terrorblade for themselves. So, again, one of those heroes that, as you mentioned, you can come online really early with this hero. You get that Dragon Lance completed, you can start fighting, although we have seen time and again Terrorblade sometimes going back for maybe an earlier big item instead. I feel like just like something that allows them to get engaged early is going to be the way to go. Is this going to be one of those games, though, where we start getting a lot of early points up in reflection to deal with the Luna for some outspam possibly? Is that something that we might end up seeing when the pressure comes to the
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think Terrorblade is one of the very clear answers to agility carries right now. If you remember going like farther back, maybe 6.7 or 6.8. I'm not sure which patch, but we had Elder Titans being picked up sometimes because we had so many agility carries, like Morphling being right? So it's the same sentiment in that with Terrorblade, he becomes sort of an anti-carry in some ways with the reflection, because as you go later on to the game, he just pops that Q and Luna just destroys herself and the allies around her. So I think this is a really good answer. It also gives you a little bit of split pushing power. That's what I also like, because Wings are looking at very clear timings here. Their pushes are going to come from 5-man pushes with wards and Eclipse up. So if you can actually stall that up by aggressively split pushing and create a lot of space, and then off of that space, it looks like the Storm Spirit pickup is going to try and look to actually be able to, force the enemy team to split up a little bit, and then you find those pickoffs. Addressing, obviously, in team fights, the Dazzle first or the Shadow Shaman is going to be key for OG being able to stop this juggernaut that is building for Wings, this big pushing power that they're trying to build up.
Yeah, totally. And now a last pick Silencer, the answer in a lot of ways. The Storm Spirit, they got what they need. Very excited to see how this works out. OG have been running the Storm Spirit pretty consistently, even back in 7.02 as well. They had a 100% win rate on it on the patch. Pretty impressive display, and I'm excited to see how this works out. Any early predictions going into this? I mean, again, probably the top 2 teams that people are expecting out of this Group A. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm looking at this, and I think that OG's lineup might be a bit too slow with the Storm Spirit being countered by the Silencer here. But it's going to be around that 15-minute marker where we're really going to see whether or not OG can, if they can withstand that first push. I think they've got like maybe more like a 50% chance, right? But if they don't survive through that first push, it's going to be like 25% chance for them to. I think they're going to have a hard time stopping what Wings is bringing to the table, because I liked what we haven't talked about yet is I really like the Dazzle pickup here, because while it isn't a 4 position that initiates, nor is it the line of logic that we were going down earlier, it does give you wave clear, and that's super important when you're looking at a lot of 5-man heavy, because what we started adopting into the earlier days of 7.0 is that we were being so 5-man heavy, nobody wanted to split push too much because you felt like you were being too easily punished by shrines and such like that. Teams were able to rotate very quickly and easily to be able to deal with you and maybe catch you out. So what we started adopting was drafting these heroes that were able to give us really fast wave clear that didn't actually have to commit at all. So a little bit of illusions with Naga Siren and stuff, but you saw a lot of supports actually being picked up, like Coddle and Dazzle, who are able to clear through a wave very quickly and have that brief presence in lane and then immediately start rotating back to join the rest of the team. So I do like that quite a bit. It helps adjust some of the split pushing problems that they were going to have to deal with against the Terrorblade naturally, and also just as a 5-man group, I think you always need a support that does something like that for you. But it's the Silencer that is going to be the probably the big question mark here. How he fares in his matchup against the Storm Spirit, which should be quite in his favor, and how much he can keep that Storm Spirit down is really going to determine whether or not at 15 minutes they can take that first couple of Tier 1 towers.
All right, we'll have to watch and see those early pushes, what the reactions are going to be. It does look like there was some early movement out. Why in the area? I'm not sure if they're expecting that he placed a ward or something over here, but he did actually not get any down, it looks like. So there's one ward that's placed over in the mid lane, as well as one down here by the bottom side. I'm really excited for this match, and I think, you talked about that lack, again, of a very strong initiator. It's feeling to me also like the Shadow Shaman's ability to get farm in this is going to be so important. You can see right here as well, they get 2 D wards with this 1 sentry ward. Another one's going to be placed down. So unfortunately, still no ability to get any pull camps off. Nice play there by that Spirit.
That was kind of cool. The fact that he just so brazenly just kind of walked up and swapped out those wards and was able to keep that easy camp blocked. And it goes into exactly what you were saying, right? Is that we need the Shadow Shaman to be able to get some farm early. He needs to be able to make use of these pulls. And you could see how much both sides are putting the pressure on being able to open up that camp or close it in the case of OG. The Ice is now bringing another sentry to him. So he's going to open up that camp, hopefully before the 30-second mark. He'll probably have to blow through an early tango, which kind of sucks. But he opens that up, allows him to be able to find a way to be able to pull against this dual lane of Earth Spirit and Centaur, because you don't really want to dual lane with a Centaur too much. He really likes the solo experience that's gifted to him.
Yeah, well, and you can see already, like, maybe they're going to start and go in for a little bit more aggression here. Shadow already in some trouble. Luna, is she going to end up going down? It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Rolling Boulder is going to be off cooldown again in 3 seconds. But, you know, the lack of regen, Boots first on Ice, they might be able to punish this a little bit. And, well, Wings are going to have to come up with an answer, as they're already dropped very low here. And there's a Shrine available for offlane as well.
Shadow did not respect, spacing-wise, this dual lane. He got way too close to S4, and S4 very brazenly just kind of charged the Luna. And it's going to be one of the downsides of picking a Luna, is that your low range in lane does offer a lot of opportunities for heroes like Centaur to abuse you. Most offlaners are going to abuse low-range heroes.
Well, I mean, and talk about low range. We've mentioned Ice's ability to zone out here. 68 damage, and then going all the way up an extra 14 on top of that when he's got the Lunar Blessing. This guy got pretty buff during that last patch, and we'll see if he's going to be able to keep the pressure on, trying to harass these guys. Look at how much damage he does to that Centaur.
Yeah, Centaur's not used to being chunked down by a Shadow Shaman.
He's a
like
poor
that.
man's shield, and it did that much. Like,
yeah.
That's absurd. And, well, maybe in some trouble now, turning for the Shackles. Maybe wants to fight this. S4 in some trouble, but can they bring him down in time? They are going to be able to get first blood onto Ice. Shadow picking up the return kill, but quick play there. S4 getting at least something.
Yeah, very clearly worth it for OG. Being able to get that coveted first blood gold is huge, and it'll help them. Unfortunately, S4, he didn't actually get the kill, so he's going to be a little bit slower on his Tranquil Boots, but maybe Earth Spirit, with his first blood, will be able to make some rotations happen. Silencer is a pretty key hero, I think, to try and shut down. He's going to have an advantage against Ana in the Storm Spirit 1v1, so you want to try and offset that a bit. Try and get Ana the early experience advantage by granting him a kill somewhere in. But it is going to be a bit difficult thanks to the fact that Wings have some pretty good wards to see rotation. Their bottom river ward has already seen Earth Spirit rotate over.
Yeah, and Jerax, unfortunately, on his sort of well-known hero, wasn't able to make a ton happen in the mid lane there, but Blink's just going to be going for a quick Shrine, a pause for a second. But early on, I'm already seeing just this great synergy in terms of pressuring the lane. We've seen that OG's reacted to it pretty well. Can S4 stay here alone in lane, though? Is he going to have Jerax around to make sure that he doesn't get so heavily zoned out?
He has some extra levels in... He's level 3 now. He does have some extra tangos that he brought with him, so he should be fine if they leave him alone. But the bigger problem is going to be is that if you leave this Centaur alone, you don't have somebody to be able to stop the pulling that Ice is going to do. And that's the brilliant thing about the way that Wings set up their draft, is that they created very early on the Centaur first pick, and they said, okay, we're going to dress this Centaur. We're going to make it hard for him to lane. We're going to force them to dual lane. And then in return, they also gave their mid a favorable matchup. So now there's like too many threats on the board in the laning phase for OG to be able to deal with them all, right? Jerax he can't win bottom and mid at the same time. So one of these lanes is going to have something that is detrimental happen to OG, right? It's either going to be Ice getting a lot of farm as a support Shadow Shaman and getting the early levels for first Serpent Wards and start that snowball early, or they're going to have an underfarmed Ana who is oppressed constantly by this Silencer. So it's one or the other, right? And I think this is just sort of the brilliance of their setup. Abaddon is going to be fine. Like, if Dazzle wants to rotate sometimes in this mid lane, Abaddon is more than happy to be able to deal with a Rubik Terrorblade matchup, because ultimately all he has to do is go to the side chop, pick up a TP scroll, and if they ever initiate on him, they have to lead with telekinesis, follow up with reflection. He just TPs to his offlane shrine, gets the full heal, and comes back to lane. So Innocence can always just rotate into mid whenever he feels like Earth Spirit is going to make an aggressive maneuver. So if Dazzle's going to be countering that part, I think Jerax is going to have to keep his attention more in that bottom lane, because the Dazzle will counteract what he's attempting in the mid lane.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And, we talked again a lot about that control that you're sort of lacking for Wings Gaming. And I'm thinking as the game goes on a little bit further and further, Storm Spirit, it's probably a really good decision that they tried to get him a good matchup. They're going to rotate in Dazzle now, because let's say that somebody on OG ends up picking up a Lotus or a Blader on. Ana is not going to have to worry this game, I feel like, a whole heck of a lot. He can build into probably a Yule Scepter for himself, I'm assuming, as well, to deal with the global silence. Do you think about even rushing that as a first item so that way you can stay alive throughout it and just wait for the later stage to extend the game longer?
Yes, you absolutely have to deal with the silence first. You know, it's a shame though, because he gets Yule Scepter and then he's not going to have the exact tools to be able to deal with the Shadow Shaman, because we are, I think, very likely just seeing this laning phase start and seeing how Wings have drafted and how they want to get this game off to a really strong start in the first 15 minutes. They're going to take towers, and you're going to see a pretty early Blink Dagger for that Shadow Shaman. So I think, again, there's another essence of having a dual threat, right? Not just in the laning phase, but now when it comes to items, Ana is going to have to build the Yule Scepter, I think, in order to deal with the global silence and grant himself some way to be able to disjoint any problems that he has when he makes the initiation. But it is also going to leave him susceptible to the quick reactions of the Shadow Shaman. You won't have a Linken's to be able to block that quick, blink in Hex.
Right.
That is going to be oftentimes the more offensive initiation for Wings. So Ana's, it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. One way or another, he's getting screwed over this game on this Storm Spirit pick. So I think it's probably Yule's first. Regen's really strong for that item. Maybe he goes the Linken's afterwards as well, but that might be overkill. Maybe at that point, because you would also, I think, like to be able to have the Orchid.
Yeah.
In general for this game, I just don't think it's possible to build up. I think you have to go Yule's, Bloodstone, and then maybe you're able to get Orchid there, because you want to be able to threaten some of these heroes when you jump in. Because the whole point of the Storm Spirit pickup was to address the backline in team fights, right? So address the Shadow Shaman, address the Dazzle, and then obviously the Silencer was picked up afterwards. But that is still another hero he needs to be threatening. Orchid is what allows you to be able to deal with multiple threats at times. So say he goes ahead and he jumps in, he Orchids the Silencer, and he grabs the Dazzle and tries to burst him down real quickly, maybe with the help of the Earth Spirit, right? So it's allows you to be able to deal with multiple threats when you're able to jump in and just kind of combo one hero down while disabling another. But, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that this game. I feel like Wings have drafted themselves into a really good spot for the first 25 minutes. And there are very few weaknesses that OG can exploit. One of them is going to be split pushing. There is not a ton that Wings are going to be able to do to deal with that. They mostly just have Luna, Mantis style, and those illusions are going to come out. The Baden does have some constant presence in lane, so that'll help out a little bit. And then the big one is the Dazzle and how he's able to just burst down waves occasionally. So those are some of the ways they can deal with that. And then the other one is going to be the lack of initiation for Wings until they have that Blink Dagger Shadow Shaman. And even then, it's not really a team fight initiation. That's more of a pick-off initiation. So OG, that's another weakness that they can read, is just know that Wings are going to be very telegraphed in everything that they do for this game. And they just have to pick and choose their team fights very wisely.
Well, still, this pause is going to continue on for the moment. It does look like there was a slight keyboard problem. Hopefully that gets resolved shortly. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this sort of plays out. And I think that it's not showing so much that there's like a huge difference in the style. I think that a lot of people going into this event were expecting there to be a really big difference in style between the Chinese and the Western players. And I think that does exist, but Wings have always sort of been the wild card. And I think that you go back to their TI run when everything was starting to come together for them, it tended to be off the back of like very aggressive, good timings and then fallback measures after the fact. But to me in this game, when I'm looking at it, I really do feel like if OG can get over that hurdle of the first initial, combination that comes out where you've got the Manta style, you've got the pressure come in and the Silencer there to sort of like be the combo breaker in the middle of it, OG are going to be able to like maybe fall back on Ana's capabilities late game. Because if I'm looking at like a 6-slotted Storm Spirit, I don't see how Wings deal with that in any shape or form. Like they are just, I feel like in a lot of ways aren't going to have the heroes unless they're a couple of Raxes up at that point. So to me, it definitely feels, I like the idea that you talk about of, going for the Yule Scepter and then Bloodstone and then maybe foregoing the Orchid as well, just to try and get you over that hump. even though they're not going to be able to threaten as much the silencer. But it's also worth noting that Ana, he hasn't had the worst laning stage so far. Like, he's salving up right now. I believe he has used his shrine, so that's a little bit of a problem, but he's only 2 CS behind the silencer in this game, and I don't know. I feel like things are by and large going okay for OG at this point. It's the later stages when the abilities come online that are probably going to be the issue, I guess.
Yeah, I think the way we kind of look at the meta right now, when it comes to the first 15 minutes, you have this laning phase, and you try and pressure certain lanes. Sometimes it's the mid. Sometimes you even pressure using your off lane in some sort of. But once you start getting to about, it depends on the team. Sometimes there's some very aggressive teams, like, for example, IG. They've done rotations as early as 6 minutes to rotate their carry out of the safe lane and pressure the enemy safe lane. But anywhere in that 6 to 12 minute marker is where you're going to see the first rotations, the first breaking down of the laning phase, and trying to find the openings, the pickoffs that allow you to be able to pressure towers. So, for example, rotating your carry. In this case, Wings may rotate their Luna out of the safe lane and into the Terrorblade lane the first time that they have Eclipse. Try and make a play there. See if they can bully down a safe lane tower. But when it comes to OG and these objectives, right, if you think this is the way that Dota's played right now, we want to try and take, usually the safe lane and mid lane tower pretty early. The off lane tower usually comes in a little bit later because it's so easily protected. You want to try and establish that tempo pretty early as Wings, and OG, they have to determine when is a good time to fight and when is a good time to split push. And I'm not sure whether or not they're going to be capable of defending their mid-tier 1 tower, but I do think they need to try and save it at least until like 12, 13, maybe even 15 minutes. If they can keep that mid tower alive until 15 minutes, I would say actually OG has a lead at that point in time.
Oh, and down here bottom, good combo breaker coming in from Jarex. They're going to try and hoof stomp, see if they can bring down this Ice Shadow Shaman. They are going to be able to, and, well, Jarex trying to juke away. Is he going to be able to make it out, though? They do have the Lucent Beam, and they find the kill. So they get something at least again, but it is a little bit of a trade-off here. 2-2 still. And I'm looking like it. I feel like if you're getting away with this with trade-off kills, it's still okay for S4, right?
Yeah. I think that's still fine. S4 is going to be able to pick up his Tranquil Boots pretty soon. He could start making use of the jungle, and I think that is really where Centaur's farm starts speeding up, is first Tranquil Boots and then Hoda Defiance. You just clear through creep so quickly. So he's fine with the current state of the laning phase. But then again, so is the Abaddon on the other side. Faith Beyond has gotten a lot of farm on this off-lane Abaddon because it really is not a dual lane that threatens him in any way, and he had the Dazzle in lane. So he's going to be, I think, a very big threat, and I'm not sure exactly what his build is going to be for this game because it does seem like Wings are going to be playing it pretty fast, but most of the bans that I've been seeing right now in China go Helmet Dominator into Radiance, or they go Midas into Helmet Dom and Radiance. And I think with his timing right now, and looking at his CS 21 and 5, we could have a very early Hand of Midas on our Abaddon. That is going to be almost more powerful than Centaur in his early hood.
All right, well, we'll see if he's going to be able to get that done. It does look like there's a smoke up here as Wings are going to make a very early rotation with Blink and Dazzle into the jungle, trying to find Ana, and if they're able to get him right here, he's just barely on the other side. They break the smoke. Oh, man, that would have been a huge pickoff, but it looks like, well, they're diving deeper for this.
Jesus.
Wings wanting to go early, and they find him. Arcane Curse. Are they going to dive tier 3? Oh, my God. All right, well, that was a very bold jaunt, and they almost got it.
That was super cool, though. This is like classic Wings, right? Wings have this idea about Dota. When we were going into TI6, we had this idea of Dota of like we'd make these kind of smoke rotations and take objectives. And what Wings did is they made rotations, and they didn't take objectives necessarily. They would go deep into the jungle to establish early kills that made, in some ways, these threatening areas, right? They would go deep into the jungle and establish dominance there. They would find a kill somewhere in there. And be able to get aggressive wards and these sort of things that naturally fall out after a smoke gank like that. So that was a classic Wings maneuver there, coupled with the very intelligent they just know that the laning matchup, all Storm Spirits abandon lane by level 5, right?
Yeah.
They always go jungle, try and get their level 6 there because it's too dangerous to stay in lane. So Wings, they had that on-point idea of trying to actually counter it.
Oh man, and Global comes out. Grave just a bit too late. I think if Y ends up revealing himself right there, he probably dies as well.
Yeah, it's probably for the best that he didn't get Michelle Grave off. He's probably like, oh man, I dodged a bullet there.
Yeah. So, well, they are still scouting this all out, and it looks like some TP rotations are going to start to show up. Shadow Shaman is down here as well. They're in the area. Faithion on top of Jarek. He's going to be able to roll away, but now they've got Shackles on the Terrorblade, trying to bring him down. They don't have a ton of damage here, though, and, well, there's just the Stampede away. There's no way to do it. They are going to be able to hold on to their tower, but no kills on the return.
I like that play. Wings, your offlane tower, we kind of made a short mention of this. You're going to see the safe lane tower and then the mid tower are usually the two towers that fall first. The offlane tower is really hard to take just because it's a tower that's so well defended thanks to the early shrine. And then you also want to control this area because your offlane tower helps protect these offlane camps as well as your ancients. So a lot of teams put a little bit more priority in protecting the offlane tower than they used to. And what you want to do with heroes like Luna and Terrorblade is you want to threaten that offlane tower as early as possible, see if you can get the quick early objective win before the rotations actually come in. But Wings were well prepared. They knew, hey, a Terrorblade lane is going to push in pretty naturally real quickly. They had the TP rotation supports and shut that down.
All right, well, here comes the counterplay now. They're on to Ice and trying to bring him down, immediately breaking the Shackles. Ice is going to fall, and Shadow pops the Eclipse, trying to turn and take this one, but they're all dropping so low. The Grave comes out as well. This is going to end up being a dead Luna here, most likely. Not going to get quite a return kill. Oh, he's so low. 5 HP, but they can't bring down Fly. Oh man, that really hurts.
That was so smart by S4. I love that play. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knows Eclipse is going to be coming, so he tries to position himself where he can just fog the Luna. And he puts himself in that little copse of trees and tries to hide in there while the Eclipse is going out. He preemptively saw that play and was able to play around it really nicely. The Eclipse was basically wasted. 2 beams went on a creep, and the other 2 went on the higher HP support heroes. So completely wasted ultimate there. A huge win for OG. Those are the kind of aggressive maneuvers that they need to make sure that Wings don't set up this tempo of gank into push that is inevitably going to happen. The OG needs to strike first in the laning phase with this Earth Spirit. They need to make sure that they're able to establish that, because as we talked about in the draft, right, is that Shadow Shaman and even Dazzle, they are not the best rotational heroes. They can't create those kind of threats that Earth Spirit can. So they need to make the most of this Earth Spirit while they can.
Well, it's really interesting to me, too, because we've been talking a lot about the early timings, and we haven't hit that point as of yet where you have everything online for Wings where they want to push down those towers. But you do also have things like the Silencers going back for a Midas. Has it coming to him on the Courier right now? And I'm wondering, you know, I guess that this is a little bit of that late game insurance that they're going to want out of it, but considering that there was that timing that we've been talking about over and over again as this ward gets placed down, we'll scout out the Midas on Silencer. If possibly they're going to be delaying their timing slightly?
No, I think this is what the Chinese are doing right now. A lot of Hand of Midases, and I do think Silencer is one of the better ones to take advantage of that. Just because, mid, it looks like Ice might be dove.
Well, they're going to turn it. Shackles now onto the Earth Spirit. They're going to lift up the creep to try and break the Shackles. That was a little bit interesting, but ended up working.
That was a very nice cognitive play there to have that idea. Using telekinesis. Fortunately, though, it wasn't really needed. And I do like, normally it's the carry that usually rotates out, starts jungling, and leaves the support the safe lane, but it looks like they're trying to make more use of the Silencer. You know, they had the early rotation into jungle, then he just went top, and they're trying to give the mid lane more to Ice to allow him to pick up his levels and get those mass serpent wards coming. So I like this idea by them. Wings are trying to make sure that their supports do get the proper levels so they can hit that 12-13 minute mark pretty hard. They'll also have Eclipse up right now, so if they can just get this level 6 finish up on Ice, they can make a play for an objective. I'm just not sure where they want to go. Just because I do put a lot of priority in taking that mid lane tower and trying to shake things up, but it does look like OG is taking the first step here and putting the pressure into bottom lane. It's going to force rotations most likely out of Wings.
Yeah, and they scan, realize that Shadow is still back behind the tower, maybe looking for a double back here, or possibly even just waiting for the next round of creeps, not feeling confident in it. But there is going to be a defense of this, as Wings are all moving into the area. Global is still down, but it looks like they don't want to give up their tier 1 tower. They already lost the offlane tower, Wings. to the Terrorblade moving in and just being able to bring that down. Now Ana's farming here as well.
Faith Beyond did not go for the Hand of Midas. He actually went for the early Helmet Dominator. I think Helmet Dom is one of the great ways for you to be able to push out these lanes without having a presence. So I'm a big fan of Helmet Dominator on almost every single carry and some offlaners right now. So I like this pickup. It does mean that there will be a constant presence in that top lane, whether Abaddon's there or not. I'm surprised that he's not rotating to bottom yet, because it does seem like OG had been willing to fight for objectives so far.
Oh my god.
And he should expect that OG are going to try and fight again in this bottom lane.
All right, well, Global is back up and kind of staring off against each other. Everybody has full information as to what's happening right now, so nothing is going to come as a surprise for these guys, as it does look like they still want to contest and hold on to this tower. Shadow, I mean, he's got this creep here that's tanking the tower for him, and they're going to be able to take it down. Looks like OG not able to force the issue too much further. Lucent Beam picked up right there for the Rubik. He has his level 6 online. Level 6 just revealed as well for the Shadow Shaman with those wards dropped down. And now OG reaction. They're going to go for a different tower instead. This is a really smart move. I like this.
Yeah, they got to just force Wings to move around as much as possible, not let them set the pace of this game. But, oh, Wings almost get caught there. Ice barely lives through that one.
Oh, they're going to be able to take it. That was a kill onto the Terrorblade. They are not going to quite end up losing. Shadow Shaman here is the Magnetize wasn't enough to find a kill. And now with no Terrorblade and also no Magnetize, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on to this tower. It looks like they're going to end up losing the tier 1 now here in the mid lane as well.
Anna is just not capable of fighting right now. He's trying to build up the Bloodstone, but he's a level 12 Storm Spirit. He can't really fight. The Centaur doesn't have his Blink Dagger yet. He's so close to it, so they just have to give up this mid-tier 1 tower. It's unfortunate, but you did know it was going to go down probably by 15 minutes, so I don't think OG is going to be too sad about it. They made the right idea, right? It's just to make these rotations, force Wings to constantly rotate around to deal with these threats, you know, because they really don't want to lose any early objectives against this OG lineup and give the Storm Spirit that faster progression and items. So they want to be able to defend, and it kind of slows down their offense when you make those kind of rotations. But he just kind of got caught in the Terrorblade. They just weren't quite fast enough in their play.
Yeah, now looking at this situation, you've got Ice who's moving up to the top lane. So they basically are able to get that mid 1 tower for the cost of a Silencer ulti, and you have Shadow Shaman wards again if they want to try and pressure the last tier 1 remaining for OG. And I like the reaction that we saw from OG with them split pushing around the map. You've got the Centaur is actually going for a Blink Dagger. We'll have it in 5 gold. God, that would have been the perfect moment. Oh, that
Everybody
hurts.
knows that feeling where you're just like waiting for tick gold and your opportunity just slides away while you're waiting for that. Because he's just like, you could tell he's making the call. He's like, guys, I'm selling my, he had, damn it, what's it called? The infused raindrop.
Oh, okay.
He sold out the like 2-charge infused raindrop. He's like, guys, I'm picking up this Blink Dagger. Let's make a play on this Luna. I just need 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds is all I need. And it just slips away. The Luna. I mean, every carry's going to do that. Every carry knows not to push themselves out too far. And so naturally just takes that one wave and that's up. Peace.
Breaks S4's heart. Poor S4. In the meantime, they are going to be able to pressure the bottom tier 1 tower. Should be able to take it off the map at this point, but they've lost all their tier 1s. The push timing of Wings is probably at this point the strongest relative to what OG is capable of doing defending it, but it still has more room to grow as well when the Aegis comes up and online and those types of things. In your eyes, Wings now, do you just look for a pickoff strictly and then go into Roche, or do you start thinking about trying to run down another tower, possibly with global silence?
I mean, they should really be looking to try and catch this Storm Spirit, which they may actually do here. No. It's just going to be... They want to catch the Storm Spirit. I don't think it's really going to be possible.
Oh, but with the Blink Dagger review, this could be a huge moment. They spot out Faithion and looking for a bit more here. They're going to stampede forward, trying to take down the Silencer. They're on top of him. There's the double edge. Should be able to bring down and find that kill. But will they get any more Ice TPing out? It's still a pretty high-value target, though.
Yeah, definitely. This Silencer who picked up the Hand of Midas, it also slows down his Rod of Atos, which is going to be one of the ways he's looking to be able to counter the Storm Spirit. You know, have that ensnare lockdown against the Storm is really powerful. But I have to say, I think OG, No Tail for the longest time was kind of abused by by a lot of talent commentators and stuff as, you know, not being quite up to scuff when OG first started. Like, he just didn't seem like he was the true character. But I have to say, this guy has improved so much, and right now I think in his movement around this map is actually winning the game for OG. He's creating so much space for Anna to be able to work around. Anna's top of the net where hasn't actually had to deal with hardly any threats at all. And that's because No-Tail and in some ways Jarex and S4, they're establishing this really high mobility tempo where they're just constantly moving around the map and making it so the Terrorblade is always threatening a tower somewhere, forcing Wings to play more reactively rather than allowing Wings to be able to set up this 5-man snowball that pushes into you, that starts taking all the map control away. OG are fighting tooth and nail for every bit of map control they possibly can because they know how important it is for Storm Spirit to have a strong start. Now he's got the Bloodstone. Now they can actually think about maybe going for some sort of smoke play and seeing if they can actually start building up those Bloodstone charges.
Yeah, really good stuff there from, and I mean, it's also worth repeating that they've been able to make that space also without the Blink Dagger yet on Centaur. The fact that they've made that much movement around the map. They will be losing Roshan right now, as it looks like Wings will be able to secure this. Don't know if OG were realizing that this was happening, just thought that they couldn't contest, or if the smoke actually was able to throw them off. But in either case, now OG have to deal with Shadow, with an Aegis. In your eyes, how does this next fight break out? Do you just keep the split pushing game going with Ana, trying to sort of keep them from barreling down a lane, or do they actually try and take the fight into them in any fashion?
I don't think you should take the fight into Wings at this point. Split pushing is probably the best way to slow them down because it's not necessarily about what you could gain, but what you're risking by forcing a fight like that. If you actually lose against that Aegis fight and you lose against a Shadow Shaman Luna, your tier 3s are going to be threatened real quickly. You cannot afford to give up your outer shrines. Like, you cannot give up your tier 3 towers because these shrines are all important for a Storm Spirit to be able to play out this game. Storm Spirit received a lot of nerfs, but one of the big buffs that he got in 7.0 is these outer shrines. They're so good for highly mobile carries like Storm and Tinker. So I think it's a little bit too risky for them to try and take, if Wings ever establish themselves as, all right, we're 5-manning down mid, I think OG just need to go for the split push. And they're doing so very well, right? If you look at it, like S4 just blinked out the top lane, he's going to burst down this wave, just like Ana is cleaning up the bottom wave. They're forcing Wings to actually set up, you know, 2 heroes in every single lane and not letting them go for that 5-man. Wings, they're kind of scrambling around trying to get enough map control that they can go for a 5-man push without losing their tier 2s. And that's what they're doing right now. They feel just comfortable with where the lane equilibrium is on the side lanes that they can go for a 5-man push in mid, get that tier 2 without losing an objective.
Yeah, and the Shadow Wards, like you're talking about, you've got the pressure that's coming in as well from the Lunars, the right clicks there. But it is still going to be a problem. You look at this, Ana, he's very aggressive at pushing the lanes out. He's going to probably be able to secure that tier 2. And No-Tail threatening with Metamorphosis in the top lane as well. And actually, I mean, they just brought down the tier 2 tower in the mid lane. No-Tail might end up dying here if he doesn't get out quickly. They're scanning out to see if the shrine was there, but it's not. And they're going to be able to get away with this one. So tier 2 brought down in the top lane. Bottom lane almost completely gone. Ana gets out. That was a great hold right there for OG by and large.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of that is a little bit of, I'm not going to say vision problems because they do have their wards, I think, in the right place. But one of the things is that they knew, they're kind of like, OG was trying to take a next level step in setting up a trap at top lane to catch, you know, the slow TPs in, right? You want to be able to push down mid and then TP back to tier 2. So OG were making the next level play of trying to set up a trap on one of those tier 2s. But then Wings also made that read. And they're like, we can't TP back to our tier 2s to defend them because we're actually just going to get picked off. We're going to be funneling in heroes one by one, so we can't afford to do that. So they just had to give up, basically, almost 2 tier 2 towers because of that trap set up by OG. So even if the trap didn't successfully work and spring and catch a hero or anything like that, it still functionally established a very strong win for OG in being able to take the top lane objective, and hopefully they'll be able to take this bottom lane objective sometime soon. You could see Wings. They know Ana really wants this one, and they had the Blink Dagger too.
They're already on top of him. They're going to be able to get long-range shackles coming in. S4 trying to break it, but Ana ends up falling. And they do take down the Shadow Shaman, but it is a heavy price indeed as the Storm Spirit died for that one. And, oh, it feels bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just talk about how Wings read a trap set by OG, but this time around, OG, it was Anna who didn't read the trap that was set up by Wings. They were just baiting out that big tier 2 bounty and just, you know, waiting for Anna to inevitably push that out. They catch him, and when he doesn't have Lincoln, he doesn't have Yule Scepter, he is incredibly susceptible to this Silencer core. So he's got to be, I think, a little bit more defensive. His allies have done a great job of giving him space. He cannot afford to throw it away by stumbling into traps like that.
Yeah, well, and you see, again, the other big pickup here is that Rod of Atos for Silencer in the early stages also has a Blink Dagger of his own to get up close and personal. Nice. This is so much aggression on top of the Storm Spirit, and I mean, I feel like they're itemizing perfectly to deal with it. There is another movement here towards the mid lane. It's looking like they want to try and pressure potentially for high ground. Is that what they're looking for? Just trying to catch somebody here?
No, absolutely. You can, again, the tier 3 towers, it's like two ways to win right now. It's like defend your mid tier 1 tower and keep that outer map control as much as possible, or defend to death your tier 3 tower. You cannot afford to give up both early. So Wings want to be able to establish this quick push, boom, pop out with a smoke, drop the wards, force OG to scramble and TP in and not really be set up, and all of a sudden your tier 3 tower may actually die in this push.
Oh my god, they're pressuring so heavily, and you see that they're up here on the high ground. Anna trying to take down the tier 3, but they have to kind of respond to this at a certain point. The wards are still there. They're not going to be in a position to threaten the barracks, thankfully, but maybe it's enough to stampede forward. Jarek's trying to find and kill off the Luna, even stealing the bounty rune away from Shadow. How petty, but this is going to end up working. 4 staff forward, trying to bring them low. They are going to get the grave off. The shackles now to turn. They were managing to get the Eclipse off as well, and Fly is almost going to die, but not quite. They bring down 2 from Wings, and maybe going to be able to get a little bit more on top of it. They're going to find that Abaddon, take him down. Anna building back up the Bloodstone charges, and thankfully, Y at the very least will be able to escape. But that's OG getting something in return, at least for their tier 3 going down.
Oh yeah, OG got absolutely everything that they wanted out of that. They may have lost their tier 3 tower, but honestly, it's a big push squad from Wings. You're going to give up some of these early objectives, but they have to make sure they get something in return. They've done that beautifully in split pushing, and now this time around, they did it in catching Wings as they retreated. And honestly, it was a pretty amateur mistake that Shadow made. He was the one who separated as a carry away from his supports. If they had just all funneled backward in the same direction, right back down the lane, they would have been good. They would have been in a much better position that if Jarek stuck his neck out like he did to try and slow down somebody, they could have turned, quickly killed him, and they would have been good to actually go back down middle lane. But Shadow separated himself way too much from his allies. OG saw that opportunity. They took it for everything that it was worth, getting themselves a strong team fight, and now they're aggressively pushing out to take map control, because what they don't want to let Wings do is group up again and take those outer shrines. They cannot afford, the weakness is there now. They just have to guard those weaknesses as much as possible, prevent those shrines from going down, because that's not just your outer map control, but that's also some real Roshan control.
Oh god, and Jarek's maybe in some trouble here himself. Oh, nice
stomp.
hoof stomp as well from Faith Beyond. These Helm of the Dominator creeps, they're pretty good still, I think.
Oh yeah, and Faith Beyond is making really good use of them. He didn't actually go for the Radiance, which I think is fine. You're playing a much faster game this time around than most of the other offlane Abaddons that I've seen that have gone Radiance. So instead, he went for the Solar Crest, which gives them better high ground pushing power with the Luna, and then he's going to be going for the Aghanim Scepter next, which gives them much better sustain in team fights. But I love that Wings, they're just lost a team fight, but they're going back in.
Fly stole wards, though. He's turning it against them. So wards hitting wards. The hook stomp onto 3. Can they take any more of this? Storm Spirit jumps in. He's on top of Ice, but the global comes out. No answer for it as of yet. They're still going to try and right-click him down through this, though. And now Shadow onto Jarex. He gets the stun off onto 3 before he falls. They're taking down Silencer as well. That's going to be 3 dead from Wings, and looking to try and take a couple more off of back of it. No tail with the double. Now onto Faith Beyond. He does not have his ulti up. Being pulled back in a second, brought back down. Great display from OG, all started with that ward steal.
Yep, this is twice now that OG have done exactly the right thing to be able to deal with a 5-man push. They have rotated 4 heroes back, left the Storm Spirit split pushing, and then when the time was right, they pull in the Storm Spirit for the team fight and they make the go. Again, Wings, I think they're so under pressure after losing that last team fight where Shadow got picked off and it all went bad from there, that they felt like they needed a 5-man down mid. And I think I agree with them. I think conceptually you are on such a timer that you did didn't need to make an aggressive play like that and just go again, right? You have wards, you have a clip, just go again and try and make that team fight happen and take that late of rags, but they messed up in the small things. They messed up in the small technical details that win or lose you team fights. Their spacing wasn't really good, right? Yeah. They had, first of all, they gave away wards. Okay, that can be forgiven, but it was the hoof stomp. They came in from S4 when he saw an opportunity to hit 3 heroes. That was what won them the team fight, because then Abaddon had to, because multiple heroes were hit, he had to pop his borrowed time in order to get an aphotic shield off on the Luna, you know, wake her up from the stun, because you can't afford to just let 3 heroes sit there for 3 seconds. So he had to try and counteract that, and then they were on the back foot from there, right? Once you make that kind of play, once you commit your ultimate and pop the aphotic shield to stop a disable like that, you're on the back foot. And now they're going to lose innocence.
Yeah, this is from bad to worse. They found the Luna as well, need to try and bring her down, but it looks like maybe a bit too far forward. No-Tail trying to get up close and personal. They actually turn the wards down again. Hex, there's the Stampede. This is an Aghanim Scepter Stampede. Just finished off. The Shrine is going to be no salvation for you, Luna. Dead again, and dive into tier 4s at this point almost. They're going to be able to push down and probably secure themselves. I mean, do they even need to stick around for tier 3s? I don't think so.
They really don't, right? It's
Roche.
It's not worth the risk. I mean, I think in some ways it was worth the risk to go ahead and just try and take that tier 3 and open up the shrines, but they also have an opportunity to take Roshan here for free. Absolutely no contest is going to come from Wings when you go, you make that rotation this quickly. So I think they're just playing it very conservatively right now, respecting what Wings could possibly do if they give them a window, right? If they didn't back up immediately and they finish off the tier 3 tower, there would have been a contest on Roshan. In fact, it looks like OG's not comfortable doing it right now because Luna's up in 5 seconds. So maybe the respect given actually kind of stumbles them at a bad point where they just couldn't take Roshan fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the whole nothing ventured, nothing gained, but I guess also nothing ventured, nothing lost, where you don't want to give this tempo away. They've been able to build up some momentum into their favor, and I mean, you look at it again, you've got Ana who's down here in the top lane, pressuring it constantly. Wings do not feel like a team that should be hitting their stride and taking the towers right now. OG have done a great job of disrupting this push, and how do you feel like Wings need to try and take back the momentum into their favor? What's their play now?
It's going to be a slow game now for them. I think they've lost their opportunity to be able to take, I mean, unless they can get Aegis into their hands. If they can get a good team fight around Aegis, around Roshan, they get that Aegis, then they can speed up the game again and try and go for high ground, but I don't anticipate that happening, or at least if it does, I don't anticipate a really strong win condition being available to them. But I don't know, looks like they're going to try for it here, see if OG will contest and how strong that contest is going to be.
Well, this is, again, wards drop down. Shadow Shaman is in a position to try and do something, but, well, they're already in on top of him. Phaetheon, they're coming to contest Roshan. They're actually going to be able to steal it away from him. It looks like it still hasn't dropped. Shadow very low. He's going to end up falling here in just a second. They've been able to pick it up. Shadow got the Aegis, but Ana still out of there for the moment. No-Tail trying to turn and get on top of everybody. The silence turned against them at this point. Rubik trying to get it. How did that happen? What? And now Abaddon also is going to end up falling. 3 are dead for Wings. And it looks like Shadow is going to fall as well. No-Tail able to survive. Oh my god. Jerax is going to end up dying here, possibly going to be able to make it happen. They do take down 3, but that was a whole hell of a bunch of weird plays.
I mean, look how close that team fight was. It could have been. Like, there was too much that happened for me to say with, you know, utter certainty that silent steal by our Rubik won them that team fight, but that team fight was so close that I have to think that it had a serious impact and just made it so Wings were not able to clean up that end, because it was so important for them to be able to get the Aegis on Shadow to keep their damage dealer alive, because at this point, Silencer is not far enough ahead. Are we going to lose the line?
Yeah, I think we are. Ana doesn't care. He's out of there.
Oh, I mean, he's got 24 Bloodstone charges.
He's over it.
He's so huge. Ah, man. Because if Wings could have won that, then boom, they can take control of the game again. Even if they don't have the Aegis, they can take some map control off of winning that team fight. They can take maybe some of the outer 2s, they could take their shrines, and then they could just try and choke OG out for a while and try and establish a really good gold lead before going high ground again. But they don't have the map control because they lost that fight. Now OG is going to be freely split pushing them all the time, and Ana's going to get pickoffs like he just did on the Dazzle. So now it's plan B, and it's not a good plan. Lyrical.
Right.
It's a bad plan, but it's the only plan you have, which is, okay, we got to play it a little bit slower now as Wings. They have to let OG make the mistake. I don't think there's any opportunities for them to be able to 5-man down mid like this push lineup wants to. I think they're just going to be split pushed and even out team fought too hard. So it's not what you want to accomplish with this lineup, and it's a very low chance of winning, but it's the situation that you're in.
And you can see there as well from that pickoff, like Dazzle trying to get towards a Glimmer Cape. It's going to be unlikely to be there very soon. We're seeing that, the original plan of the Shadow Shaman to be going for the Aghanim Scepter has now been held back. He's going into a Ghost Scepter and then afterwards a Force Staff. It's just not the way that they wanted to play the game, and it's been, in my eyes, just OG playing so much better as well. They were boot camping here, obviously, in China before the event. I think that they're probably feeling quite good about the way that ended up going after this first game, at least for themselves. Nothing is over as of yet, clearly, but with a Butterfly on No Tail, Manta style done, Scotty as well, they're looking like they want to be the ones that are aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. They could just kind of sit behind No Tail, let him do his thing. Anna has the items necessary for him to be able to solo split push with impunity. So I think the OG, they've got a pretty straightforward game ahead of them. Control the map, farm up.
Well, gonna have to watch and see how the Wings Gaming deal with this. They are smoked right now in ice.
Whoa.
What? Okay, I mean, this reveals, I'm sure, that a lot of heroes in the area, but not sure if they're gonna be able to make anything of it. They're able to wards trap for the moment, global silence down as well, but they're not gonna be able to contain Ana, and now Wings in a lot of trouble. They're on top of the Dazzle, gonna be able to bring him low. There is an Eclipse. He ends up using the Grave on himself to save his own life, but it still might be enough here in the end. They're controlling and able to run down and kill off the Silencer. He is going to fall. Another one next. Magnetize the BKB pop. It's not going to do a damn thing. 5 are dead. 9-27. OG dominant in this one.
This is why OG, I said it was like going into Boston Major or something like that. OG's the best in that. And you can see why. Right? They dealt with this threat in just kind of like the perfect way. The way they split push, the way they fought defensively, they let Wings come into them, make the mistake, and they captured them. And they just, from there, once they were able to stop that initial threat,